Hello there, guys, and welcome back to my channel for finally a preview where actually something matters because we're back in the Champions League, which, you know how crazy it is that the last Champions League game was was it even in November? I can't remember, but either very beginning of November or October. You know how long ago that is, considering it's now, Valentine's Day, 14th of February. It's mental, but big game tomorrow, because if tomorrow goes real bad, or if obviously we just bottle it in the second leg type thing, then the season's kind of over. Because at this point, I don't think anyone's stupid enough to actually believe we're still making top four. So kind of a lot depends on this, not in terms of that, okay, if we don't go through here, it's the end of the world, but in terms of motivation for the season. I'm sure that will also somewhat affect the squad. If now, say, we go out in the Champions League and there's literally nothing to play for, I'm sure that can't be exactly useful. So I think quite a lot rides on this game tomorrow, if I'm being perfectly honest. But I'm still very excited. I am in about 12 hours getting in the car to leave for Dortmund, which is also kind of scary because it tells me I'm not going to get a lot of sleep. But, we move. But yeah, I'm very excited. Big stadium to tick off the list. Also, first time in, I think, Champions League history that Dortmund will actually be allowed to get a full stadium, get a full crowd, because there was used to be obviously the rules that you're not allowed standing seats in the Champions League, which reduced Dortmund's capacity from 81,000 to about 60,000. And now tomorrow is the first knockout tie where they will have the full 81,000 present. And, it's hopefully going to be spectacular, but not spectacular enough that it impacts our team into playing worse. Bertram, first of all, I'll start with you. Thank you for being on here. We are very excited for Quizmaster Bertram to return later on already. How are you feeling ahead of tomorrow? Like, this season's not been fun, has it? And 2 wins out of 13 ain't good, is it? Now, you can also say we haven't lost in, 5? So that's, I guess, you can spin it in positive ways. But 2 wins in 13 just isn't good. But somehow, you and me were talking just before we went live, before Pice even joined us, somehow we feel like we're just going to win tomorrow anyways. But where is your positivity, optimism coming from? Or is it just naivety?
Well, thank you for having me on. Yeah. No, I think, we've all supported Chelsea for some time, so we all know that, especially in the Champions League, we all thrive off chaos. We have never won the Champions League without firing one of our managers through mid-season. So, there's to hoping we'll do it again. But yeah, to be honest, it feels quite negative around the club these last couple of days. I still feel like we're better set than, for example, in the 15-16 season. So even though we always have to look at the table and be reminded that we're 10th, I still think, there's optimism for the future. But yeah, as you've said, results haven't been good. Play hasn't been good, barring the first half, even against West Ham, where I thought we were quite good. The play hasn't been where we wanted to, and a lot of negativity surrounded us, which, it seems like it's been a theme for us these last couple of years. It started from, the end of Conte, throughout Sarri's tenure as well. So it's something that annoys me a lot. And I was really encouraged and happy to hear that the owners support Graham Potter through this, because even though I do believe that, we haven't been as good as we probably should be, I think all this hiring and firing and, constant pundits who don't really understand the direction the club is moving in, telling us, oh, if he loses this game, he might be sacked. And I was beginning to doubt it myself, but, I'm happy to see that we have some owners who know how to take the temperature of the room and kind of lay it out. And, I just hope to see a good performance tomorrow. I was really encouraged by the first 20 minutes. And if I'm honest, this is the first time that we get to see a player like Mudryk, a player like Enzo playing against someone who doesn't play a deep block. So I think these are some of the things that are going into the game tomorrow. So, hopefully just some positivity to bring with us to the coming weeks. So those are my opening thoughts.
Fair dues. No, I appreciate it. Pice, let me get to you. Thank you for being back on. As always, we have also managed to fix the mic issues we had the other times, and that's fantastic news. Do you quite share Bertram's positivity, optimism, or is the optimism a little bit more difficult for you to come by at the moment? And also a question, do you agree with what I said at the very beginning, that in a way, kind of a lot rests on not just tomorrow's game, but this tie, with the reverse fixture, obviously, at Stamford Bridge in 2 weeks as well. Because if we're out of the Champions League, then, yeah, sure, we can still prepare ourselves for next season. But I feel like just naturally the motivation levels would drop a little bit. And with us struggling so much as it is, the last thing we need is motivation levels to drop, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I think a lot rests on this tie. I'm confident. I am confident. I think it's just based off, what I've read about Dortmund. Been speaking to a guy who's big Dortmund account on Twitter, and yeah, I think the way they play might suit us. But we're gonna
Even
have.
though they seem to think it's, they are better than ever in terms of
Yeah, I mean they're on a
rugby.
good run. They've not lost at home since I think it was October or something. But I think if you have a look at their Bundesliga results, I mean, as soon as they play a team that's kind of in and around themselves, they do concede quite a few, man. I've got a good feeling we can get out of their defense tomorrow. But we're gonna have to really rise to the occasion. We're gonna have to defend well as well because I believe it's 81,000 fans. I mean, that atmosphere is going to be incredible. I mean, the likes of Thiago Silva, experienced players are going to be really, really vital tomorrow. So I'm just hoping we kind of see out the first 30 minutes, maybe going at half time 1-0 up. That'd be nice. And I mean, at the worst case scenario, you come away with a draw, or just if we have to lose, make sure it's 1-0. Like make sure we don't have too much to do in the second leg, because I think what's making me so confident
Or
about
like,
this.
I don't know, 3-2.
Yeah, you could do as well. But I think what's making me so confident about this tie in general is that we have the second leg at Stamford Bridge. So I feel like whenever that happens, it's a good thing when you have the second leg at home, in my opinion.
That is true. Although, now, I just had basically my own brain confused me because as you were talking about, second leg, only lose 1-0, and I said 3-2. I said that with away goals in mind. But as I then remembered, there is no away goals rule anymore, is there? So, I'm not sure if it matters less since then, having the away game, the home game second, or arguably that it matters more, because if you don't have the away goals benefit in the second game, I guess you have a bigger benefit as the home team. So it's a very, very interesting one. But I'm glad to hear that even Price is optimistic about things. That is always very brilliant. What you can see, ladies and gentlemen, on the thumbnail, and what you can see in the title is it do or die for Potter? And people know that I don't necessarily see it that way. But I know a lot of people do. And I mean, you and me, Pies, yesterday, we were going right at each other in our group chat for minor differences that we had. To be honest, I'll be perfectly honest, I was right triggered yesterday. Not by you, but just by the fan base. People just pissed me off because I'm like, criticize what's fair to criticize. But I feel like people, and if they made a big deal out of those things, as much as I don't think we should be doing that, I find that understandable. But I think the fan base at the moment is making a big deal out of things that, okay, you might not be happy with, but I don't think that a big enough deal to make such drama about. Like, yeah, I understand you would rather the manager have a go at the ref for the VAR thing. I understand. I would also. I mean, we were sat here after the game against West Ham, Pies, and I agreed, right? Like, I think you shouldn't just, it is what it is, Get at it. Klopp gets at it. Pep gets at it. Jose gets at it. Arteta gets at it. There's a reason why certain managers do that. But I do also think we need to, hold the horses a little bit, where I'm like, if we win, no one gives a shit, and then all those kind of things will just automatically become more normal as well. But because we're in such a bad run, if the manager then, blames everything on just like this one main VAR thing, do you then get the progression that you need? Because then you're just like, it's just VAR's fault that we're not winning. Partly against West Ham, that might have been the case because, either Gallagher's shot goes in or we hopefully potentially scored a penalty. But fact of the matter is, don't put ourselves in that situation. Don't defend so stupidly for that one goal we conceded. Take the other chances that we have. Don't drop off every time we play a second half. So, sorry to be going on a monologue again, but yeah, it's just there seems to be, and when I say the whole do or die for Potter, it's clearly not going to be for the ownership. Let me get one thing up here. Where is it? That one. I will get that one up. There is multiple, which have basically said similar things. But to the ownership, Graham Potter isn't going anywhere anytime soon. And people probably should just accept that. But I understand that, everyone has their own opinion. But what I mean more in terms of the do or die, is it do or die for the fans in terms of Potter? Because we were talking about yesterday, Pies, weren't we? In terms of, I think to some fans, he's already done. No matter what he does, they will never turn to like him. Again, not everyone, but I feel like too many of the fans. And if I feel like if we go out against Dortmund, then that could he might just lose the fans too much to ever get that back. Did you see that at all, Pies?
I think he could get them back, but I think for the immediate sort of future, for the rest of this season, if we do get knocked out by Dortmund, I mean, it would be so toxic because there's been toxic already throughout the results we've had, but I think everyone sort of expects Chelsea to turn up in the Champions League, and I think Dortmund is not a team that Chelsea fans will accept going out to. I mean, they're a good team, but we should be beating them over two legs. Like, it would be a shock if we don't, in my opinion. So the fact that if we did get knocked out, especially knowing the second leg is at home and likely Dortmund would have to probably beat us or get a draw or something, it would just be, yeah, no, I could see the fan base absolutely, it would be awful. It'd be terrible.
Yeah, no, exactly. That and that's kind of my concern, because as we were going on about yesterday, and then obviously the clip of Gareth Bale talking about getting booed and stuff by the Real Madrid fans was making the rounds on Twitter a little bit as well. Well, this is why I'm concerned about this, because I'm like, whether the owners back the manager or not, even if the players, and we'll talk about that in a second as well, seem to be right behind it. If the fan base doesn't believe in it, it just becomes a toxic environment that you can blame whoever you want for then it being toxic. But once it is toxic, it just becomes difficult for anybody to turn the ship around, because once it's toxic and if the results still aren't that amazing, then it's just not going to be a good environment for anyone to thrive in. It's not a good environment for the manager. It's not a good environment for the players. And it's certainly not a good environment for the fans. Like, we all want just to see us win games. We all want to see us improve and take those next steps. Bertram, what's your perspective on things? Because as much as I'm of the opinion that, people blow things a little bit out of proportion with Potter to some extent, I am also very much aware that 2 wins in 13 is not good enough. And as much as there's many reasons for that, whether it's the injuries, whether it's a lot of new signings, this and that, 2 wins out of 13, not all of these 13 games or all of the 11 that we didn't win were against teams that are so incredibly great. Do you know what I mean? Like, we should have done better in a lot of these. And I've also come to a point where I'm like, I want to see a bit more progression than I have done recently. Now, West Ham, the first 20 minutes is all well and good. But then I do still also have to ask the question, why is it always in the second half that it dips, that it drops? Like, that is a concern. Now, maybe now that we have all these new players, I find it a bit more understandable, because, okay, new players that aren't used to the Premier League, we all say and know that the Premier League is the best league in the world. It's physical, it's quick, it's strong. If you're a new player there, the longer a game goes on, the more you will probably feel those effects. So I understand it now as well. But we can't lie to ourselves and pretend that the second half issue has only started since we've signed all the new players. That was an issue equally as much before we had the new players. So you can't really just blame it on that. And that's, like I say, that's just where I need to see a few things improve. And if I don't see them improve on the pitch, then I need the manager to tell me why they're not improving. And if he's not telling me by, having got the players, which I don't want him to do, but I want you, don't just say, we'll keep working. I want to know why this is happening. And I'm not, number one, is anyone even asking him the question? I don't know. But I don't know why we keep having that issue, because how can we start a game well? Sometimes we even get a goal and then it just drops off. I'm not 1,000,000% convinced that this is just a issue on the Potter. I feel like we've had that issue at the very beginning of the season when we had Tuchel as well. We took the lead in a few games and then all of a sudden we drew or lost it. But where is it coming from? Like, how do we get around this? Because I think we're not really bad for the entirety of games often. We just can't take our own chances and can't keep pressure up for continuously enough. But how do we fix that problem, though?
Well, I think surrounding Potter and Chelsea in general, there are a lot of thoughts in my head. I think number one right now, as much as we're doing these streams and stuff, we can't do anything about it. And I'd love to hear the chat as well, because I can understand criticizing and stuff like this. But like we saw with the Bale incident, booing, criticizing, all this stuff, it just adds to the negativity. And I'm sure they see it. I'm sure they do. I'm sure Mason Mount sees the criticism he gets, which I would say much of it is very unfair. I'm sure Potter does it as well. And I think it's been said throughout the season a lot of times, but we're not. Right now, Chelsea isn't Chelsea. Since the sanctions, since we've gone through the ownership sale, you look at these teams. Two games in 13 that we've won. It's terrible. It's not. It's literally relegation form. But we need to look at it throughout the context. And the way, I am as a person, I'd like to be positive because, I'm sitting here in Denmark. I can't affect anything, even though I want to. But I think when we look at Potter and the character he is, I think right now he provides something that I think personally we need. I think he provides some calmness. I think, the way we've seen throughout press conferences, since the West Ham game, he's been criticized a lot for not criticizing the VAR decision. But let's have it right. We would probably have won if that came in, if the referees had done an adequate job. But we went to the 16th place West Ham with all our new signings and didn't win. We only scored one goal until, what was it, the 89th minute. So VAR isn't the sole reason that we didn't win. And I think he knows that. And I think he's trying to portray that onto the players. And I think, he hasn't changed his demeanor as well. I'd be worried if he had, he is a very calm person, and we see that through his press conferences. So I think right now, going through all this ownership change, going through changing the way we play, all these new faces, all this, I think, a calm, leveled head is what we need. And I'm happy to see that he hasn't changed. That being said, I think we do need to see some major, changes, definitely in the play style, because I can't take, I watched the West Ham game, the Fulham game. I can't really take, all this passing around and not getting anywhere. I'd love to see some changes as well. But the only thing we can do as fans right now, other than rightly criticize, is just support and see where it takes us. Because either we win tomorrow and we're over the moon, or we go out and we have nothing to play for, and then hopefully, we can build it up from there. But I hope that people can respect the person he is and not try and mold him into a Tuchel, for example.
Yeah, no, I hear that absolutely. Let me get to the super chat before I pass the next question by Alhambra. Appreciate it very much. He says this is a golden opportunity for the manager to go from Graham Pulis back to Graham Potter. Okay, no room for errors in lineup or in-game management. And I think the last bit you mentioned there is a very good point, because Jem, I know, Pies, you weren't fully happy how I was like, oh, Jem, yeah, this is a fair point. And to you, I was like, which I understand as well. But Jem was talking about, he was at the West Ham game, and he was talking about how in the second half, when things did drop, not only, like, yes, he did make some subs eventually, but those came like late 60th minutes. I don't need the manager necessarily to stand on the sideline and shout at the players all the time. That's not what I think. I don't think you need to do that to be a good manager. I think there's different ways to be good at being a manager. One is, okay, you can shout like a Tuchel does, like a Pep sometimes does, like a Klopp will do. But that's not the only way to do that. Carlo Ancelotti, you will never see Carlo Ancelotti stand on the sideline and shout at players. It's just never going to happen. And is Carlo Ancelotti a bad manager? Obviously not. But what I do still want, I don't need you to shout, but I still need you to try to change things if we're losing control of a game. I don't want you to be only in constant conversation with like your assistant. And again, I don't need you to throw a tantrum and throw your arms up and down and do something, but talk to players, make subs, adapt the tactics if we're having issues, and don't just let it happen. Like for the first bit, maybe until the World Cup, I could maybe somewhat accept that, because I'm like, okay, maybe he's trying to get a grasp of what the players do. If you leave them to do things by themselves, that's often a thing that managers early on do. Usually they do it in pre-season, but obviously we hired Potter in September, so then that's a bit more difficult. But now we're in February. You need to. If you were losing control of a game, if we're losing our grip in a game, if we're losing dominance in a game, you need to do something about it. And it's not just subs. Like, I need you to be a bit more, like the super chat says, the in-game management needs to be not necessarily better, is maybe not the right word, but just more proactive. That's what I would like to see. But Pies, how I would like to take this to you, and you can kind of include that point into your response as well. What do you think of the owners seemingly being so very adamant, that they, believe in Graham Potter, they think it's going to be great. Maybe they know that, the way Potter works, it takes a little bit of time. But once you got there, it's extra good, I guess. It's a difficult one. But then again, you also see the players, and maybe I'll bring it up from Reece James. They seem to be very much on it. So I'm not really sure, if I want to see it as a great thing, a good thing, or does it just not really, matter that much? But what do you make of the owners being so adamant that it's like a good thing? Because I would love to know where the line is, right? Like, again, I'm not one to say Potter needs to go or should go. But if 2 wins out of 13 isn't enough to have any issues, then what is enough to have any issues? Do you know what I mean? That's what I would like to know. I can't even lie. Well, what's your thoughts on this, Pies? And just in general, like I say, the owners backing it so much, no matter what's happening.
Literally what you just said, bro. I want to know like where the cutoff point is, because like I know it takes time to gel players. I know it's going to take time to get consistent wins in a row, but as you said, like 2 wins in 13 is dreadful. And some of those losses obviously were when we had a lot of injuries and stuff. But I would just like, I would like to know like where does, where's the cutoff point? Where does, if this keeps continuing, which to be honest, I don't even expect it to. I feel like with now, especially with the players that, coming out with the quotes and believing the way they do, I believe slowly we'll build up, consistent performances. But if it does continue, like, where is the line? Like, if we get knocked out by Dortmund and, like, keep for the rest of this season, we're just kind of like win, draw, lose, win. Like, where does that take us then? Like, is it still we're going to give him next season, or is it like, okay, maybe we've built all this around him, and maybe we've got the choice wrong, even if we want to do a long-term project? And that is the thing. I feel like they've committed so hard to this with the money they've spent, in terms of not only just like buying him out of his contract, and they bought all his staff in, which included the goalkeeper coach and obviously Cole McCauley. And they also bought in Paul Winstanley, who's literally the co-sporting director. So you can't really get any higher of a position for him from Brighton. So like, it's just like they've kind of like, I want to say they've kind of put themselves into a wall and they have to do this. But at the end of the day, like, I mean, like they have to back him. But at the end of the day, like it's, even Graham Potter said, like, it's not in football, like it's not guaranteed long term. You have to get results. And so it's a bit confusing, to be honest. It is a bit confusing. Like, where is the cutoff point? But I don't want to find that out, to be honest, because I want us to win. So let's hopefully that happens.
No, exactly. I mean, I see a comment here like by Santiago, and he says, draw tomorrow and lose to Jesse Marsh will end him. Now, a draw tomorrow would not be an amazing result, but it would be an acceptable result taking it to the second leg. So I don't think the draw tomorrow would be the problem here. But number one, how does Jesse Marsh get sacked by Leeds after taking over them in 17th, and a year later they're still 17th, and he gets sacked, and a week later he has a new job already? How's that happen then? My guy's got PR work, PR team like no one else. Better than flipping Mason Mount. But yeah, I mean, last time we played Jesse Marsh, we lost 3-0. So can we please not do that? That was under Tuchel, mind you, not under Potter. So before anyone tries to slag off Potter again. But my God, let's not, please, Santiago. Don't even talk things like that into existence. I mean, Bertrand, what's your perspective on this? Does there, in your mind, have to be a certain cutoff point? Because I know what Pice just explained makes a lot of sense in terms of how many players from this whole Brighton kind of group we took. And I think if we got rid of Potter, we wouldn't actually get rid of so many of the others, even if we did ever get rid of Potter. But if we keep form like we have now, 2 wins in 13 until the end of the season, I cannot imagine us not sacking him, if I'm honest. Now, I don't think we will be in that form until May, but if we were to be, I can't see them still being like, yeah, we back this, because if we, like, by then we'll be like 15th. Do you know what I mean? Like, we won't get relegated still, but we can't.
I see your
point, no?
Yeah, I see your point. In my head, it feels like I could make excuses for him in my head up until like, almost after the summer, because we brought him in, as you've said, we invested heavily into buying, the whole staff of Brighton as well with us. I think I almost want to feel like I believe Potter is a good manager, and I believe everyone thought that. Even you guys, all the pundits who are now, questioning him, I think everyone thought he was a good manager. Brought in at Brighton, made them good. And I know people always like to bring up, the fact that they were, I don't know, like 8th or something, 7th, 9th, something like this. They ended there. I saw a comment earlier as well that he hasn't won a trophy and stuff like that. You don't always have to win
a trophy to
become a good manager.
Swedish Cup, to be fair.
He won the Swedish Cup, but my ball knowledge isn't that broad, I must say. But I think, we saw it with Sarri as well. He won his first trophy here. I think you learned, especially you respect him. I did as well. I do believe, in a sense, I'd almost be like, either the players are able to buy into what he wants, because if he's able to do it with, the players at the level of Brighton, if he's able to make Danny Welbeck look like a stable Premier League striker, he should be able to work with, Mykhailo Mudryk, for example, stuff like this. So a part of me almost feels like if someone isn't able to fulfill what he's asking of them, we should almost sell them. That's one part of me. The other part, as you say, rather, is if it keeps going this way, and if we just keep not winning and not improving, I think we at least saw some improvement against West Ham, even though it wasn't sustainable. If we keep going through this rot, I think we would try to find someone else. But I think for this season, I would almost give him the season out unless we lose like 9-0 the next 2 games, for example. But say we do go out to
lose 9-0, please.
Let's say we do go out to Dortmund, then we at least have half a season to almost lally around, and maybe for him to coach, is it team in? But I think it depends very much on what we see from here on out, because I think he has trust with the owners, and then he should, they know more than we do. So even though we don't always agree, I think he has my trust, and he definitely has my support.
Fair enough. Sorry, let me just, because Graham Potter's press conference just started, and the major thing, as you saw from the title, potentially major injury boost. We didn't quite know beforehand in what level and to what extent those injury boosts are happening. So that's why I was very intrigued what Potter's going to say. But all of now I have to think of it. Mateo Kovacic, Zakaria, and Wesley Fofana all travelled to Germany, and now Potter said on it, all three, those mentioned, Fofana, Zakaria, and Kovacic, are in the squad. They're getting closer. The challenge is to build them up. I'm very intrigued when any of them will be fit to start. I'm very intrigued when anyone's going to follow up the question to find out more about that. Just before we move on to a few other bits of news, Pies, let me take it back to you before I get to another super chat by Alhambra. Reece James is just one example. There's been many examples of players that have really stood by Potter. And I was saying this in the group chat earlier, how now this doesn't guarantee anything, doesn't get you anything long term. But I think to still have the players on your side this much after this poor of a form, when you're a manager that has, no necessarily huge backup credentials before joining, I think is actually quite impressive. So does that in any way at all, Pies, when you see players like Reece James, when you see other players so back the whole thing, does that make you maybe think there must be something we're not seeing? Because otherwise, surely they wouldn't back it as much as they are. I mean, I do also think that a lot of fans in our fan base need to read what Reece James said here. Everyone expected to work overnight because we spent X amount of money. Football doesn't work like that. It really doesn't. When I see people say, he gets 2 more games, then I'm like, well, but then, okay, so then all new signings have had 4-5 games. And do you think if you sign half a new team and then 5 games later, it's all going to be great? Usually you have 5 preseason games and it's still not great by the first game if you sign this many new players. But does it at all, I'm not necessarily saying does it change your mind, but does it maybe make you question certain things that you think about Potter when you see, but Reece James backing it so hard? Or does it not, do you not really let yourself get affected by that?
No, I mean it's positive to read what Reece James and others are saying. I think Thiago Silva has always also said something about Graham Potter in terms of they all mention how great of a person he is. And I think even Pascal Gross, who's still at Brighton, he was asked about Graham Potter's time at Chelsea so far, and he said he's really big on the harmony of the group, and trying to make sure everyone's kind of happy. And I think it is impressive that he is seemingly making the players, still smiling, still happy, still want to train, still want to turn this round, even in such a bad run. So when you almost think well, if you flip it on the flip side and when we go on a positive run, how good could it be then, sort of thing. So I think that's something to take forward as a positive. But yeah, I mean, I do think it's definitely impressive. I mean, the players are happy. You can visibly see that. I mean, even someone like Aubameyang, who was dropped from the Champions League squad, is still smiling in the training pictures today. So, Hakim Ziyech, after his failed transfer, he was smiling the day after in training pictures. He still turned up to training. He seems to have set a good sort of I don't know, like a nice environment, I guess, where everyone wants to come and train. And Reece James specifically was saying he laid his cards out early to the team, and everyone knows, their role, and everyone's he's really transparent. So I think that's important, because some managers will just get really, really annoyed. And on one side that can help the players because it gives them a kick up the backside. But on another side, it can just make players not really listen to you. So, yeah, I mean, players they're they've got egos. They're sensitive people as well. They can get pissed off very easily. So, I think he's doing a good job in the aspect of the whole squad harmony and building a culture, I guess.
Now we just need to get it to translate into results, but I guess.
Exactly,
But
yeah.
There you go. I mean, I see a comment like this from the Balderus. He says Potter does not have the support of the players. It is a request from the club to the players to answer like this to the press. See, now obviously, people like you, that's why I say our fan base is toxic. As soon as there's anything positive about Potter, you're like, well, this is just created by the club. There's not the reality. As soon as there's anything negative, you see it as fact. While you could also flip it and see it the complete other way around. If you wanted to, you choose not to. Because I'm not sure if you've paid enough attention to player interviews over the years, Mr. Balderus, but there is ways of saying things. Reece James can sit in this press conference, in this interview that he was given to Be in Sports, and not have a go at Potter and not, question things and, kick up a fuss. But there's still ways to support it and back it the way Reece did, and support it and back it if you're told to support it and back it. I feel like you will hear and feel a difference in something like that, especially with someone like Reece James. I don't feel like Reece James is going to be the type of guy. Yes, I'll get to it in a second, Alhambra. That will just sit there and just say what he's told from the club. Reece James doesn't seem like that type of guy for me. I'm not sure if everyone agrees, but hey. Alhambra says in the second super chat, I like the spirit of the board's philosophy, back manager and play great football, but I think they've executed it poorly. Now board are wary of optics and brand. I'm not sure what's making you think that they're wary of the optics and brand, considering what you can just see up on screen. If anything, doesn't it look the opposite? I do understand why you'd say they've executed it poorly. I think that's maybe a bit of an extreme way to put it. I think it's a case of maybe, I don't know, I don't necessarily think so yet, but maybe they picked the wrong person to do the whole thing with. But there will come a point when that will become so clear that they will stop it. And even then still, I've said it multiple times, the one reason why I'm so adamantly not going to having such a go at Potter as other people are is I've heard who we apparently see as other options. Oliver Glasner. So when I hear that, I'm like, well, it's not going to get any better then, is it? Do you know what I mean? People talk about Hansi Flick and Luis Enrique. We've not been linked to any of these people. Just fans create these stories. No one's saying we're linked to Zidane and Flick and Luis Enrique. We're not actually linked to any of these people. Well, we're not linked to any managers because we're not talking to any other managers. But what's been reported is that we want a manager like Oliver Glasner if we were ever to replace Graham Potter. I'm not sure if that will change by the time it ever happens. But my point is, let the transition happen. And then if we feel, okay, now we've come to a point where we have a good squad, and then we still see not quite enough to be proper winners under Potter, then you can still get rid of him, get a top manager in, a more proven top manager. But by then, you will have a functioning squad. And that makes the job for this new top manager much easier. While if you do it now, then you first need to also get a manager that's actually not just good at being a top manager and winning, but also good at assembling a squad to the extent of making it work together, because a lot of it has been assembled already, but to make it fit together. And if you let Potter do that part, which is proven to be good at, it might just take a little longer. But if it works in the end, is it not worth taking a little longer? Because how often have we tried it with other managers, and then yes, we had instant success, but then it always tailed off? Wouldn't we at some point want the success to be consistent? Like Man City have had success continue. They might have cheated their way to it, but that's a whole different scenario. They've managed to create consistent success. And at Chelsea, we haven't had really consistent success since 2010? Really? Since that Carlo Ancelotti double? Really? We haven't had super consistent success since then. Now, that doesn't mean we didn't win trophies most seasons, but we also finished 10th, finished 5th, finished here, finished there, won like a League Cup, won a Europa League, which, yes, it's a trophy, but it's not exactly like challenging for the Premier League, challenging for the Champions League every season. We haven't had that kind of consistency. And in an ideal world, isn't that what we're all looking for, Bertrand? Surely the consistent success is what we want. And if a bit of hard time is what you need to do to get to that consistent success, maybe it's what you need to do. I guess the question is just, there's never a guarantee, right? That's the problem, isn't it?
Well, I think a lot about Tuchel's quote in preseason where he said, they had the same problems because they had the same players. I thought about it. It's like if you have a car, right? If you you have the wheels from one car, you have like the hood from another car. You just end up with this Frankenstein version of a car. Yeah, it can still drive, and sometimes it might win a race, but wouldn't you want to have one that you build over time? Yeah, it might go slowly to start with, but man, when it gets going, it's going to be really good. And I think at this point, I do, and I have enjoyed, and I respect every part of it. I'm not going to try and diminish anything. I'm so happy I became a Chelsea fan. Back in the day, because I think we're one of the clubs. We have won everything, and I've seen us win everything, and I'm so grateful for that. But I think it is time that we accept that there's a new way of running football clubs, and this is the way. We haven't consistently been challenging for anything since the almost miracle season we had back in 16-17. And I believe right now we have the issue in where we walk through all those managers, all those players, and I think, as I said previously, I think we just need a calm manager who has proven himself in the Premier League to just select his players and build it up. And yeah, sure, maybe he isn't the guy, but right now he's the guy that we have, and I can't really see anyone else who I'd trust more with it. Yeah, you fire him, you hire Luis Enrique. We have no reason to believe that he will do, any better, even though he has won the Champions League, but there was in different circumstances. So I just believe that right now we're kind of in an identity crisis, and we're trying to find it. And unlike the super chat previously, I think the owners have been exceptional, and I like every way they've taken to the game. Todd Bowley hasn't just played Football Manager. He's hired some guys who've pointed out and said, okay, Enzo Fernandez, great player, great stats as well. Let's buy him in. So for my money, I think I'd like to agree with you that, or at least say, I think we should trust the process in.
Yeah, I understand why people have issues with that. When I find it silly is when they say, "Oh, Potter's awful. Let's get Luis Enrique." After we had a game with one shot on target, I'm like, "Did you see Spain at the World Cup?" Like, if your issues is lack of a shot on target, why would you ever consider Luis Enrique? People talk about Hansi Flick. Well, have you seen what he's done for Germany? Just because he was good at Bayern and then he was bad at Germany, that's his only jobs he's ever had. Otherwise, he's been an assistant. So, like, you've had one that's gone well, one that's gone badly. But the one that's gone well is a job that everyone ever has done well in. Obviously, not every Bayern manager wins the Champions League. Sure, I'm very aware. But, if Mbappe could score from 3 yards, he wouldn't. So, swings and roundabouts, that one. But, Pice, what I want to bring up now, you just tweeted it, a quote from Graham Potter's press conference. Obviously, that was part of what we were arguing or discussing about yesterday in terms of that. You just want him to say certain things or stop saying certain things in a press conference. Is this a thing where you see him say that and you're like, yeah, I like this one? Or what do you think about this quote? Because I find it quite funny.
This is brilliant. I want more of this. He's angry. I like it. I like it. He's emotional. He's clearly pissed off. I mean, to be fair, this is not the only time. I just feel like he's starting to get annoyed with the journalists, and this is great. I mean, I love this content. It's brilliant.
Yeah, no, exactly. I mean, obviously, you people can all read, but maybe some people are listening to this while doing something and can't see what's on screen. So Potter said, if you think you can start a coaching career in the 9th tier of English football and get to this point now with Chelsea in the Champions League without sometimes getting angry or being nice, I would suggest you don't know anything about anything. Quite frankly, that's true. And then as Naku puts in the chat, one other thing from the press conference, Potter on what makes him angry, apart from these questions. That is funny. See, I like it as well. I want him to kick back. But I do, like I say, I think we just need to not put too much on each sentence he says in the press conference. There's going to be things which we like. There's going to be things which we don't like. But that's going to be like that with most managers. Okay, sure, there's some exceptions. But in the grand scheme of things, no, not every no manager is going to always say the right thing, I feel like. Just in our opinion. Pice, you were trying to say something? Go on.
I just tweeted another one. I don't know who he's referring to, but he's talking about like the media and yeah, that one.
The same media talk about me being more angry than run stories about problems with referees at grassroots football. What's the connection? I mean, to be fair, I'm asking the same question. What's the connection? I don't understand where does this come from.
Probably a dig at someone, I guess.
No, I actually now I think of it. I read something about somewhere that some dad was talking about how his son is like a a referee at like a lower level, and that even at that level he gets a lot of abuse and stuff like that, and it's like difficult for him to, sometimes difficult to see your kid go through that. That's what the father there said. I think that's probably what he's getting at. So on the one hand, we want better referees, but on the other hand, we want everyone to shout at the referees, which makes no one want to become a referee, which is why we have all bad referees, because only people that are twats are willing to become referees, because otherwise you probably can't hack being a referee. But if you're a twat, you're probably a shit referee. Do you know what I mean? Maybe that's what he's trying to get at. But it's also the fact that pretty much the entire refereeing squad is basically from Manchester. I mean, that's a problem in of itself. Not one referee in the Premier League is from London or the surrounding areas. Isn't that crazy? Considering 5 Premier League clubs are from London or 4, whatever it is. Like, it's insane stuff when you think about
Lawrence,
it.
Lawrence, could I jump in quickly? Or you want to just fantastic? I think a lot of or a big part of being a manager of Chelsea, I like to think he's done a good job previously, but a lot of it is also him finding himself, None of us, I dread to believe that, none of, almost none of the media, like, your Gary Nevilles, your Jamie characters, none of the Twitter warriors, they've watched his press conferences before. So no one really only knows what he's about. The only time I remember seeing Brighton last season, it's when they win. It's when they draw. It's when they have good results. You don't always see them. So I think a lot of Potter, or a lot of the criticisms come to him now, is also coming from the lack of, things we've seen from him, also both from people in media and ourselves. So I think it's important when, not to, this goes for everyone, but not only to base your, opinions on, what the media think, because, the things in the press conferences, I couldn't remember one press conference he had before. So I think, it's going to come across in the quiz as well, but, be wary about what you choose to take, be critical about what sources you take and stuff like this. If that made sense. It made sense in my head. It made a lot of sense in my head.
Sounds like it makes sense to me. I can't lie. We've got another super chat by Alhambra. Appreciate you very, very much. This time even with £10, mate. Appreciate you. He says, this debate is healthy. Appreciate that. I'm not expecting any titles from Graham Potter. I mean, I do eventually. Not right now, but eventually I certainly do. I do from any manager, any Chelsea manager. I think directors will look after the consistency of player profiles. Graham Potter serves as a cornerstone for a style. He is step one for the owners. Now, Pies, do you at all see that as a possibility? Now, obviously, the owners don't tell us that that's what's happening, and they're certainly not briefing the media that that's what's in their mind. But I have thought that from day one, and this is why I always keep saying, let Potter do the transition. If by the transition phase that we're going through, and by that, I don't just mean the squad. I'm not sure if people pay enough attention to know as much as, especially me and Pies and Bertram, especially now that he's in a group chat, he sees everything that's happening. We've changed the entire club. Like, now hired a mentality coach. We've hired a physio who's a specialist at hamstring issues. We have a sporting director, 2 sporting directors. We have 2 technical directors. We have all sorts of different madness, really. Like, more people in positions at clubs than pretty much anybody else. We're changing everything at the club, not just on the pitch. This is a transition that will not go smoothly no matter who it is. Now, does it necessarily have to go as badly as it has done? Absolutely not. I agree. But I don't think there is any way that the season, that everything that's happened in the club in the last year happens and you're top of the league. I genuinely don't think that's possible. I could be wrong, but I genuinely don't think that's actually possible. But I wouldn't be surprised at all if they see it as a case, well, let's get Potter, let's do the transition, blah, blah, blah. He's good at making better players better. We also get all of his Brighton guys who are really good at finding good players and stuff. And then once we've done all of that, we can still hire one of these super managers. Do you know what I mean? Do you see that at all as a possibility, Pies? Or do you believe everything that's said in the media is also the full truth and full reality?
No, definitely not. Especially some of the journalists that are close to the owners, they can, be fed information that obviously they'll believe is true, but the owners or whoever in the ownership, because you got to remember there's a lot of people in and around this ownership as well. It's not just Clearlake and Bowley. There's a lot of other people around it. There's a lot of directors. So there's going to be a lot of noise coming out, for sure. If they want it to, of course. There's not been much at the moment, but, there will be probably moments in time in the future where we'll hear positive noise and we'll hear negative noise. So, the media definitely doesn't say the full truth. Does it mean it's not reliable? I mean, you still have to believe the reliable sources, but, I mean, in terms of like he's saying he's step one for the owners and that type of thing. I mean, who knows? I mean, I do feel with how they're like presenting things to the media and stuff like that, and how much they've spent and who they've brought in, that yeah, he could be, the man for the rebuild, in terms of like maybe give him 2-3 years and then assess what we've won then, because along the line we're still going to have to win trophies and we're still going to have to compete. So yeah, I mean, maybe it's something to assess in the future, but in terms of like if they've already got a plan for like say 2025 or 2026, I mean, I don't think so personally, but who knows? They may do. I mean, they're very sort of ahead of schedule. I think ever since they've took over, they've done things so fast. They've planned things. We was hearing about this multi-club model. Way before it started. So yeah, I mean, just everything really, from the recruitment to like the removal of like the old board, just they've changed so much, and they've put so many like pieces into place that they are very smart, and they are very like, like, I don't know, they like to plan ahead, I think. So who knows?
Yeah, no, exactly. That's the thing. I'm not saying it's definitely the case, but I see a world in which it is. But do you see a world in which it, like, Potter's kind of part of step one? And not necessarily the way Pi said, do they have it all planned out for 2025? Who comes in then? I don't think to that extent, but maybe they're like, okay, Potter now, and then we'll see what we can do then in terms of top manager or whatever. Do you see that as a possibility? Or, like I say, do you just genuinely think, okay, they've hired Potter, they're planning to have him here for the next 6 years minimum type thing?
Well, I think definitely, the hiring of his whole backroom staff, going all in on hiring him and giving him the most ideal situation he could wish for, definitely, supports the fact that we want him here for a long time. I think it would be the healthy thing to do. I think if you looked at how we did it under Roman, we kind of hired under profiles. You'd have, a slightly more offensive coach and like Carlo Ancelotti, and go from him to someone else and stuff like this. And it doesn't really make sense. I think it would be the healthy thing to do. We have Potter, and he has to, instill this playing style. And, right now that a lot of people, they don't really, they don't get on board with him. And that may be fair enough. But I think it's also his job to kind of implement the play style. And, we will have some growing pains. And I think it would also be good for us as a club to have them now, because, say that, it doesn't go well, but he still implements his style. If we hired someone now like a Hansi Flick, he would still have to go through this, situation. He'd still get fans, on his back because of it. So I think having a manager right now, taking us through it, and then we see where we go. Because if we have someone like Graham Potter now who takes the blame, and then get someone else in, could take the positivity from, what he's built and move on, I think that'd be healthy. So I definitely, hope this is the idea, because he's not going to be here forever, obviously. But I'd like to believe that he's an investment and he's here for the long term. But it's definitely the right way of doing things.
Yeah, no, I agree. Just a couple of more smaller things before we get to the quiz, and then talking about the team we would like to see for the Dortmund game. I do quickly want to highlight this here by Manny Mace. He says, people are saying we spend 600 million like Potter spent that money. Now, I wouldn't say it like this. It's not Tuchel that wasted the money. Maybe a combination of Tuchel and the ownership, more so the ownership being new and them having to learn lessons. But to say Potter spent 600 million is the biggest lie ever. He literally cut Aubameyang from the Champions League squad. Don't talk about he signed all of these players. He's leaving out Koulibaly the second Badiashile turned up. By the way, I found out that Koulibaly was apparently ill for the West Ham game, and that's why he wasn't in the squad, which I didn't know about before, which is very interesting. But what I want to bring up quickly is a big positive about one of our signings, which should hopefully be announced soon. But Andre Santos, who of course won with Brazil as captain the under-20s South America Championships, I guess like the youth under-20 Euros, won player of the tournament, scored 6 goals or whatever in 8 games, scored including the winner in the final. He's finally flying to London, and what I learned, because I listened to a podcast with Matt Law before starting this stream, and apparently with this whole work permit thing, there's a certain like points you need to be awarded such a work permit, and apparently this very Sudamericana, South America Championship will actually should get him more points, and Chelsea are very much expecting this work permit to get done now. Although, if there is this under-20s World Cup, and when did you say it starts, Pice? Surely not when the normal season is still on. Surely it starts in like June, right?
May, I think.
I guess maybe it starts at the end of May and the season finishes
May,
of May usually. But still, Now, Carney Chukwuemeka won basically the same player of the tournament in the European version of what Andre Santos just won. So, as you can see, that doesn't necessarily mean you just play every game. But hey, if Andre Santos can come in and can be a benefit, I'm excited about it. Pice, you saw the final. I'm pretty sure. Did you see anything in that which you maybe haven't really known or seen and learned anything more about Andre Santos to make you even more excited about him?
I think he's an interesting player, I was watching him closely. I got to say, the first half, my God, just overall, that was not football that I watched. It was like a proper South American dogfight. Like there was, I tell you what, he's not afraid of a tackle. I'll tell you that. But it's quite hard figuring him out because he was kind of like box to box. But he also like at times he would just kind of sit deeper, but still in the same position, like still on the right hand side. So of the midfield, not right mid, but right centre mid type thing. So sometimes he would go forward and sometimes he would stay back. And there was a couple of times where he just like made some really, really nice tackles. He got well, not the winning goal, but I guess you could say it kind of was because he made it 1-0 in the 81st minute. From a cross, he was in the box. Lovely header.
1-0? Did it finish 2-0?
It finished 2-0, but he kind of started it all off.
Yeah.
They scored in like the 93rd minute to end it. But I mean, yeah, like for me, I think he looks really good technically. He looked nice receiving the ball. But obviously it's not, it's not Premier League. It's under 20 international. So in terms of how he will deal when he does get to play, in terms of like, the press and just the difference in pace of the football, I don't know. But I mean, he looks like a talented player for sure for me. I'm definitely excited about him.
There you go. We are also interested in some 15-year-old Ecuadorian wonder kid, apparently. I would have wanted to get into this a little bit more, but we're running out of time because I've got other things to sort out. Because, like I say, I'm now in 11 hours leaving for Dortmund. So let me get this last super chat here on this whole Potter topic before we move on to the quiz. He says, a question for you all, or all of you. Playing styles come in and out of fashion. Do we run the risk of being too rigid in an identity/philosophy in the long run? But what would be your response to that question?
I think yes. I think we've seen it, especially with the 3 at the back system, and where it was, we kind of brought it into fashion, and then it, it doesn't really always work because it's quite defensive. I think the way I'd look at it is we have a bunch of players right now, and we just need to find the best way of utilizing them each. And I believe that the way Potter's doing it is finding out how to set up the team best. So a player like Mudryk, a player like Fernandez, we get the most out of them. So I think this is the way I'd look at it instead, because I don't think Potter is as developed as a coach, especially internationally, where he has a specific system he has to play like an Antonio Conte. So I think he would be the man to mold his own system to the players he has. So that's probably what I'd think. But I think there's definitely a risk in only doing it this way.
Fair. I mean, I and H. Nakos kind of said something along those lines. Potter is known to be flexible. That is kind of the philosophy. And by that, I don't necessarily mean formation-wise, but just playstyle-wise. And if that's the thing now, if I personally don't believe we're going to have Graham Potter as our manager for the next 5 years. So, I'm sure if whoever is the new manager will make minor tweaks and just, keep up with what's working. Now, is there a potential that you get to that point at some point? Yeah, sure. But then again, Pep Guardiola has at least his general idea of football, as much as, at Barcelona, he was actually quite rigid in the 4-3-3 and, a false 9 and mix of a real 9, and has adapted over the years. But that, the general idea of how he plays football, high possession, passing football, getting yourself into the box with movement and quick, short passing, that has never changed. And how long has Pep Guardiola been successful now? So, yes, things go in and out of fashion, but certain things that work don't just immediately stop working. Then you just tweak them minorly, and then it should work again. Pice, what would be your response to this question before we get to the quiz?
Is he trying to say we'll become too predictable or something?
Well, just run the risk of that ever happening. Yeah, I guess.
I mean, yeah, sure, but I think Graham Potter is known to be almost at times an over, tactically flexible manager. I think the first thing I ever read when Graham Potter was, agreed to join us, I think some Brighton fan put a piece together of how he used like a record number of formations and switches within game in history or something. So no, I don't think we'll have a problem long term. It could be a problem, but in the long term, no, I don't think so. Especially as we get more time, like in the summer, if he's still here, which I imagine he will be, he'll probably work on 2-3 different formations, and obviously different styles of play, different styles of build up, and things like that. So yeah, I think it's just a bit difficult right now, and it's good. I hope he I guess we'll debate in a bit about 3 or 4 at the back, but it's good that he's still sticking with the 4-2-3-1 at the moment, because I think it's it will slowly build chemistry, I think, if we keep playing it.
Yeah, no, fair enough. Let's get to the quiz. Ladies and gentlemen, get involved in the quiz if you can. Basham, just quickly tell me, can you change the slides, or can only I do that?
I can do it.
You can or you can't?
I can.
Very good. So,
All right.
Quizmaster Basham, the floor is yours.
The idea is, Cluedo with the Chelsea edition. This took me all afternoon, but alas, we moved.
I love it.
This is the board game, and I've named some of the rooms adequately. So basically, the idea is that I have found, we're coming up to the yearly anniversary of when we got sanctioned. So I think we should reward some of the brave journalists who printed some absolute garbage, and you both will have to guess which publication or journalist printed the story that I'm going to give you. And right. This is the board. I would love some love for the name. We have the Lewis Hall down here. We have the Nani Madueke study, the Kukura Library, the Kalidou Koulibaly room, the Kai Havertz Satori. This is the ballroom, so it's now the Enzo room. The Chukwueme kitchen, the dining Zakaria room, and finally the Ngolo's Lounge Kante. Again, all afternoon, but alas, we move. Let's start off. So, first story. Why Chelsea should be relegated from the Premier League. Several clubs have been demoted from the football pyramid for less than Roman Abramovich since he's been sanctioned. And who wrote this? Is it the Telegraph's Jim White?
Bertram, let me get this right. You made a quiz knowing I was going to be on stream, and this is what basically I've done for the last year and a half. Is that what you're telling me?
Exactly. So good luck. That we're going to try, give
I'm expecting you to get every one of these right, Pies, by the way.
This is pressure, bro. This is pressure.
So is it who wrote this brilliant opinion, which gave us all great insight? Was it the Telegraph's Jim White or the Guardian's Jonathan Liu?
Now I'm gonna cheat a little bit here by taking the font of the website as a hint. I'm not fully confident on the Guardian's website, but I'm pretty sure this looks like the Telegraph. So I'm gonna guess Jim White from the Telegraph, but I could be wrong. Pies, what will be your guess?
Yeah, I think this was from Jim White. I remember this piece.
All right, go on.
Well, you boys, congratulations. This is Jim White from the Telegraph. Not all of them are taken directly from the website.
Oh, mate, this is brilliant. This quiz is tailored to me. I'm gassed. Let's go. This is brilliant.
Moving on. All right. Cataclysm.
I've not seen that font before, so I couldn't tell you now.
The unprecedented Chelsea sanctions explained after the $17 billion nightmare. Now, which American publication made this? Is it our friends from Fox News or CNN? Now, Laurenz, you somehow got it from the font. I would not have. Any thoughts?
I don't even understand what 17 billion pound nightmare they're talking about. I'm not even a clue. I would say I'm gonna say Fox News, but purely guessing.
Okay, solid shout, Pice.
This one's a guess from me as well, because I don't really. There's only a couple of American people I listen to for transfers, so.
Don't look at what Clutch said.
No, I've not even got chat open.
Good.
Oh,
I'm gonna go with. I don't even know which one mainly report. I'll just go with CNN to be different.
So you've both gone split. It is Fox News.
Yeah.
Clutch in the mud. He said that's a CNN font. Well, he corrected himself. It is.
Wait, of course they have Fox Sports, don't they? I'm so stupid.
The funny thing is that the $17 billion thing, they don't really mention it at any point. So it's always this constant fear mongering that none of us can do anything with. Moving on, this is from Facebook. So Roman Abramovich's sanctions have split the Chelsea fan base. Chelsea fan in tears, as he says, I walked away from the club after 62 years. Now, which of these? It's two very different publications. Is it TalkSport or is it The Observer who made the story?
Pies, do you want to go first on this one?
This is because I know Talk Sport. They often do like bits like this where they'll get someone's like they'll
Call
often
in and stuff, right?
yeah, like it's more of an opinion based. Chelsea fans in tears. Oh, see, I actually remember this. I think it's Talk Sport. I remember seeing it. I just can't. Yeah, Talk Sport. I'm pretty sure it was.
Laurenz, you have a shout as well, or just the same?
I'll be honest, I don't even know what the Observer is. But so purely on the fact that, you know, TalkSport do the call-in shows, I must say TalkSport, but maybe the Observer actually do that as well. I'm just not aware.
I've seen this on Talk Sport, so even if it's not, I swear they posted this.
You put yourself on a lot of pressure, Pice, but in the end, it was rewarded.
It was. Come on, let's go.
It was solid shout. The Observer just sounded, it sounded like something, the Telegraph. It sounded sophisticated. TalkSport is not sophisticated. Moving on to this is something I've read. Skinsky, the Chelsea face going bust after Russian owner Roman Abramovich hit by crippling UK government sanctions. Now I've typed this myself, so there's no hints able to be hidden in the font. So what are you thinking?
I have this saved on my phone.
You do?
Yeah.
I've certainly seen the Skinsky thing from the Sun. What I'm not sure about is whether the Daily Star were boring enough to copy that, or the Sun copied it. Who knows? I'm going to say the Sun. Pice, do you know? Is it the Sun?
I'm pretty sure it's the Sun.
Solid from you both. It is the Sun.
Yeah, there you go. This part I have seen.
Something, very funny after we've spent, 600 million throughout the past 2 transfer windows. So it just makes it a bit more fun. Oh, I think we have maybe like 2 more left. The normal amount of 6 questions. Okay. Financial expert explains why Chelsea might be able to go into administration. Is it Sport Bible or The Athletic? Also 2 very different publications in their own way.
This one's easy.
Also, again. All right, Laurenz, would you like to go first?
I don't know if it's going to make me look silly, but I must say Sport Bible.
Pice, would you finish it off?
Yeah, Sport Bible. The Athletic don't do this type of thing.
Really?
They do not. But again, it was just a terrible time because no one really knew what they were talking about. It was just pure guessing, and it gave clicks. So it was,
exactly.
All right, we have this one and then one more. Second final.
Oh. I recognize the layouts.
I always recognize. I thought this one might be able to. All right, finally in. This is quite long, so I'll just leave it on screen. Laurenz, would you like to go first on this one again?
Yes, could the Mirror or the Daily Mail. See, on this one, I have no clue in terms of the layout and stuff.
This publication does the same layout for every single article. Always the bullet points underneath.
It is true. Now that you've reminded me of that, I do kind of remember from many years ago when the Daily Mail app gave you, without any sort of asking you to pay, English sports news. I'm going to say Daily Mail now, but it could have been both for all I know.
Yeah, you are correct. I wasn't really banking on you being on Pice, to be honest. This is almost as terrible as it can be. But we move on to finally, Roman Abramovich, death and destruction in Ukraine overshadows Russian oligarchs' legacy at Chelsea. Now, who printed this literary masterpiece? If you should not be able to know this one, as it's American.
Yeah, I've not seen this one, but the title is very against Roman Abramovich, and I don't know if the New York Times would have done that based on. I think that. Well, I mean, they had a lot of pro Bowley pieces, so maybe. Thing is, I've not really seen CNN, to be honest. I know New York Times. There's a report who reports on Chelsea, but he wouldn't have said this about Abramovich. But it could have been someone else. So.
Yeah. I'm more trying to judge it from just the wording of it. Would the New York Times, headline it with death and destruction in Ukraine overshadows Russian oligarchs? I don't know. It seems like more of a CNN thing to do, but obviously I'm no expert on American media in the first place. So I must say CNN. Are you going to go CNN, Price?
I'm going to go New York Times just because I know they do a lot of sports stuff.
Okay.
Laurenz, I'm happy to announce you've ousted the #1 Chelsea reporter. It was CNN.
Come on.
And finally, we go to the VAR room. So the moral of the story: in times of crisis, you have to be critical while choosing sources because, the world sometimes, as Jose said, is against us.
Clown room.
Very good.
This is
Can we
brilliant.
just have a
Thank
round
you
of
for playing.
applause for Bertrand? The effort you go to for
Quality
these,
stuff.
man. My guy created a whole flipping Cluedo board, man, with separate rooms. What did you call it? What was the Havertz one? That was funny. The Cooker Library.
That's actually class. Great graphics. Quality.
Thank you.
Great, brilliant. All right, boys. Let's get into talking about tomorrow's game and the potential lineup. As I hinted on earlier already, as we've gone through a couple of things from Graham Potter's press conference, Mateo Kovacic, Dennis Zakaria, and Wesley Fofana all travelled with the squad. Pice, I'll ask you, do we know or think... Okay, sorry, I was just confused by a comment here. Do we know or think if any of them are able to start, or do we think they're all going to sit on the bench?
I think they're all going to be on the bench because he said we've got to build them up. So does that mean? Usually that means minutes off the bench, right?
Yeah, I guess it could mean 60 and you bring someone on for one, I guess.
I don't know. With what was it, like Chilwell, I think he could probably play more now. But Kovacic and Zakaria, they were in training last week, so perhaps, I'm not sure. He did well to not kind of reveal anything, to be honest.
Yeah. Well, Sam might ruin it a day before anyway, so might as well.
Yeah, this is like outrageous. Man's just exposed himself.
Yeah, it's a little bit ridiculous. When it's Ruben or Chalobah, we know it's one of them two. I thought it was Chalobah, but people keep talking about Ruben, so now I don't know. Maybe it's both. But whichever one of you two it is, stop it for flip's sake, man. Stop it. But let's start at the back, shall we? And Pice, maybe, sorry, Bertram, to go back to Pice again. You had this Dortmund fan write an article for your website, by the way. Pice's website is linked down in the description.
Yeah.
I know you hinted earlier at the fact that you think what they're doing kind of could suit us in terms of whenever they play a bit of a better team, they tend to concede quite a lot. What else have you learned from them? Because I saw a Dortmund fan tweet how they're a bit more pragmatic nowadays than they used to be, especially since Sebastian Aller has come back from, obviously having testicular cancer. So fair play to him for coming back the way he has. Big up to him. And apparently, according to that guy, they basically just play long balls and therefore they don't play as high of a line anymore. And therefore they're less prone to mistakes. Is that what your guys said as well? Or what has been your gathering of Dortmund at the moment? Because their form has been unbelievable. Don't they have 6 wins in 6 at the moment?
Yeah, I believe so. I definitely learned a lot. It was a really good piece. So if you want to guys go and read it, go and check it out. It's quite in depth. Just covered some key points really. Without giving everything away. I think what I learned mostly was that they don't tend to deal well too much with pressing teams. So especially if we press from the front, apparently when they played Hummels and Schlotterbeck, they made so many mistakes when teams pressed them, apparently, in terms of giving the ball away. Nicolas Sule was actually a former Chelsea target, has come into the team, and he said he's kind of fixed it a little bit. He's got better passing ability, better under pressure, but he said pressing from the front they struggled to deal with in the past, and not even in past this season. And also attacking their fullbacks. He said when they played against Leverkusen, Moussa Diaby, who's very fast, absolutely ruined both their left and right back because he kept switching flanks. Apparently, just like their right backs are not like the quickest. Their fullbacks are not the quickest. So I think it's Guerrero, who I didn't actually think was too slow, but him is the left back, and the right back is either a guy called Wolf or like Ryerson or something. I don't know either of them. So, but yeah, he said that Mudryk is a player he's scared of tomorrow. So. Let's see.
Very interesting. Very interesting. Like football says here in the comments, they're having a decent season. Now, it always looks better because actually Bayern, for their standards, are having an absolutely awful season. And that kind of shows you the standards of the Bundesliga at the moment, that Bayern are having their worst season, I think, in maybe 2 decades in terms of points after this amount of games. And they're still top. But especially after, their season recommenced, what was it, January 21st or whatever, because they were off until then, while obviously we started playing on December 26th again. They've been very, very strong there. But to get into the lineup, obviously there's not even a debate to be had. It's going to be Kepa in goal. As Mendy still, we even put another goalkeeper into the Champions League squad. Lundström, is it Berg Lundström or whatever it was? Because Mendy's still dealing with his flipping finger issue. I've never had any of that. He's had surgery. Did they screw up the surgery? I mean, hey. But anyways, Kepa's going to be in goal. Let's not even waste our breaths on that. I think we can also be very confident Thiago Silva plays. But who plays next to him? Because Koulibaly has travelled, but he obviously was apparently ill, which is why he wasn't in the squad against West Ham. So he was ill on Saturday, but now travelled. So then do we expect him to be fit enough to start, or do we think it's going to be Trevor Chalobah next to Thiago Silva? Bacham, I'll go with you first. What do you reckon, and what would you do as well?
Don't know, Jim. I think, a part of me says I think we'll play Koulibaly. Pure experience. I think you could put it the way that either something has to be wrong with Koulibaly before we don't play him. It has to, if both are in decent form, I think we play him. Purely for experience and his expertise as well in a back two. Have we seen Trevor Chalobah in a back two consistently? I don't think we have, and I think throwing him into a team, one of the most informed teams in Germany, from 81,000 fans, I don't think would be the best idea, if I'm honest. I think Koulibaly.
How often has Chalobah played centre back in a back four for us?
Exactly, he's been out a while. I think Koulibaly especially if they play Haller as well, I think he'd be able to deal with him well. Big physical striker. So I think that would be my two centre backs, him and Thiago Silva, obviously.
Yeah,
I don't think.
Go on.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I've seen a lot of people debate as well whether we should have included Badiashile in our squad. I don't think that we should have.
Who would you have left out is the problem. So
I wouldn't have left any of them out as well. I'd much rather see Joao Felix ball than Badiashile ball, even though he has been quite good.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I think missing Badiashile could be a big problem for us, but so could be missing any of the other three, especially with Raheem Sterling being injured, by the way. After that knock he received that kept him out of the West Ham game, there was talk that he might be fit for Dortmund, but he is not. So that is a bit unfortunate. But I would probably agree with Bertram. I would just about pick Koulibaly, but I guess I don't know for 1,000,000% if he's healthy enough. But assuming that he's healthy enough now that he has travelled, I would probably pick Koulibaly because, the Champions League, European football, he's a bit more used to, even though Napoli haven't been a full mainstay in the Champions League either, to be fair, when he was there. But yeah, because it's Europe, and if this was a Premier League game and Badiashile was for some reason not available, I might genuinely pick Chalobah. But because it's Europe, and also because it's the big occasion in terms of, playing in front of 81,000 people, I feel I'm going to pick Koulibaly. He's done well in Europe so far. Now, obviously, against AC Milan, he knows that team, he knows that league, but he was superb against them, both home and away. But obviously, form has also changed. So things could be different. But yeah, I'd probably agree with Bergman and pick Koulibaly and Thiago Silva. Who would you pick, Pice? Because one other thing I would like to mention there, by the way, it seems to, well, maybe actually they will play the other way around. Because obviously recently, Badiashile has always been left centre-back, Thiago Silva right centre-back. If it's with Chalobah, I'm very sure Thiago Silva needs to go over to the left again, and then Chalobah will be on the right. With Koulibaly, it could be both ways round. Now, Thiago Silva is so experienced and so good that to him it probably doesn't matter. But I feel like to all the players around them, it might matter. So maybe just leave Thiago Silva there where he has been the last 2 weeks now, because I feel like that will be an unnecessary minor change that people probably won't think of that can just ruin certain patterns, certain things that we got used to now. So that's how I would go for it. But Pice, would you pick Chalobah? Can't really pick anyone else. I very much doubt Fofana is ready to start.
Yeah, this is obviously assuming we play the 4 at the back as well. We might go to a 3, but
I doubt it personally. Why would we now all of a sudden? Why now?
Yeah, it's an away leg. Try not to concede, hit them on the counter, I guess. Could do that, but
we had, last game we conceded, but before that we had 3 clean sheets playing a back 4, so it's not like,
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe just, I don't know. We know they're going to come out the block, so is playing an attacking formation ourselves going to hinder us, or will it benefit us? But, we'll see. But if it is the back 4, I'd personally pick Chalobah, to be honest.
Okay.
Koulibaly is experienced, but personally, I think Chalobah's the better player at the moment for the club, so I'd pick Chalobah.
And I see that as well, to be fair. Like I say,
he's better on the ball as well. He's better on the ball at passing, so for me, Chalobah.
Okay.
More composed, less rash, in my opinion. Yeah, I think it's a no-brainer, but I think Koulibaly will actually start just based on, experience, and obviously Badiashile missing out. And
Do you think Bertrand made a fair point in terms of how often has Chalobah actually played in a back four for us?
Yeah, I see that, but I think I just don't trust Koulibaly. I rate Chalobah.
I understand that as well. Like, it's certainly not a clear cut pick for Koulibaly from my end. It's 2v1 for Koulibaly, so we're going to keep that on screen. But still, yeah, absolutely justified.
I think you think about it as well. Like Chalobah, like he's not let us down a lot in his Chelsea career, to be honest. I think you only play Koulibaly if based on age and experience. But we said this like in the past, like I'd picking lineups against different teams. I will pick Koulibaly today. He'll be a bit of a leader at the back. He's been anything but that. So I'm a bit worried if Koulibaly plays tomorrow. I'm not gonna lie, especially how he hasn't played in a while. I mean, maybe it's good. He's got his head a bit clearer.
But to be fair, that same thing can be said for Chalobah. He hasn't played in a while either. But
yeah, I just think in the past though, when Chalobah hasn't, he's come back into the teams. I think I don't know. I feel like
you're slightly changing my mind, if I'm honest with you. But like I say, for me, I don't see Chalobah playing left center back. I'm quite adamant that I want us to keep the positioning the same, where we don't have to change it, and that's why I'm going to stick with Koulibaly. But yeah, I'm very close to pick Chalobah. I think both are absolutely justified picks. Well, I say both are absolutely justified picks. There's merit in picking both, but there's also problems with both. I think we're all probably aware of that. Now, we cannot probably all get Reece James out the way. I presume you're going to be in agreement, Bertrand, with Reece James at right back. No funny business with Aspie or Chalobah, I guess.
No. I think if he can hack it, I think we go with him again. No comment. No further comment.
There you go. Pice, you agree as well, yeah?
Who?
Reece James.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, someone said that whenever the guy who does like the press comments with the manager usually starts, and that's actually true. So,
but I feel like it's been like we've been saying that for the last year or so, and I feel like there's actually been a few occasions when it then turned out not to be true. So I'm not. I feel like it used to be always true, especially in like the Sarri and Europa League press conferences, Lampard and stuff, and maybe in the beginning of Tuchel. But I feel like even last season and then early this season, it's not always been true. I'm not sure, but you could make a fair point, and maybe that's also what swayed you to think back three. But I don't know. We're going to have Reece James. We'll see what Potter picks tomorrow anyway. But let's get to the much more contentious position in terms of the fullbacks. My days, what are we going to do about left back? Pice, I'm going to let you go first. What are we going to do about this here? Because is Chile ready to start? I don't know. And do you otherwise give Cucurella another chance after that stinker he had? And if not, do you pick Lewis Hall? This time he traveled, so it's something.
I'd pick Chilwell.
Okay.
I would pick Chilwell. I think also Graham Potter come out and defended Cucurella a little bit. He said it's just basically understanding with Mudryk. There's nothing sinister going on at all. Because I think he was asked about like the Mudryk video. He said, yeah, there's nothing in it. Which you'd expect him to say anyway, even if there was. But he just said that, especially against West Ham's back five, apparently it was hard to access Mudryk's feet, which I thought was a bit extreme. But I would go with Chilwell personally. I want to see him. I think Champions League nights, he's always done well for us in the Champions League. So pick Chilwell.
Yeah, I'm more slightly concerned that throwing him in and then he's clearly not ready because, well, he's played once 20 minutes and once 8 minutes, and otherwise he hasn't played since early November or October. So, like, is it a good idea to throw him in against Dortmund away? I don't know. Bertrand, what would you pick? Would you pick Chilwell? Would you pick Cucurella? Would you pick Lewis Hall?
I think it is quite, not ideal, the situation we have right now. I think, more so, I don't think we should, quotation, reward Cucurella for his performance. I think he should be benched, maybe just regroup. I think Chilwell is our best left back. I do agree with what you're saying, though. His fitness could be a problem. But I think the way I'd look at this is...
as well.
Exactly.
Not even just that he's fit, but yeah.
The West Ham game, he just inspired me more than Cucurella did. It might just be instructions as well, but I think Cucurella might just also need some time on the bench. And I think Lewis Hall, it would be tough to throw him in at the deep end in such a game like this. I think we have to choose an experienced team, shown by my pick at center back as well. So I think right now Chilwell is our best left back. I would start as long as everyone can start out with our best team and then make changes throughout the game. I think it's important we get a good start tomorrow and perhaps get a goal early. So I think Chilwell definitely to start him and sub him later for, I don't know, Lewis Hall maybe when we've got a feel of the game or a Cucurella or something.
Okay. Now, if I did a predicted 11, I could almost guarantee that Cucurella starts. People won't like to hear, but in my opinion, it's nailed on that Cucurella starts again, and Chilwell just comes on a bit earlier this time. That's what I think will happen. But I would probably genuinely pick Lewis Hall. I know it's a bit crazy, but I'm like, there's no point in throwing a half fit and not sharp Chilwell in. That's not going to be any use to anyone. Cucurella cannot start again, so therefore Hall starts. But you boys pick Chilwell. We're gonna keep with that. And hey, if it does happen. And I just hope he plays well, because obviously in an ideal world, I want Chile to start as well. I'm just a bit hesitant to throw players in after such a long time out, especially when before he got that injury, he was only coming back from an ACL injury anyway. So it's like, he wasn't even properly fit before the injury, let alone, So yeah, that's why I have my hesitations, but I do understand picking him as well, totally, of course. Midfield 2 then. I think one guy we can be very sure about, Enzo Fernandez. We need his magic again. This time, please play that type of pass you played to Joao Felix maybe 2 or 3 times, and then we'll score enough to actually win the game. But yeah, Enzo's nailed on, isn't he, Bertram?
Nah, I'd start him as well. Very impressed by him so far.
There you go. Pice, not much to add really, or is there?
Nope, he's going to start, and hopefully sauces all over Jude Bellingham.
Hopefully he does, yeah. That would be nice. By the way, ladies and gentlemen, I haven't told you yet. Please do subscribe if you haven't already. Excuse me, we're on the road to 20,000 subscribers. So please hit the big red subscribe button. Every new subscriber counts. Please do. And hit the like button as well. I appreciate that massively. But now we get to, again, a more difficult one to pick. Who to pick next to him? Because if we're not sure if my opinion is Zakaria's been out for longer than Kovacic. Therefore, I think Zakaria is basically guaranteed not to start. The only one of the returning players that I could see potentially start is Kovacic. But yeah, I guess then comes the question, do you pick a Kovacic who might not be fully fit, or do you just pick Ruben again, who did okay in the last game? I don't think if you play Ruben, he's going to be the reason for us losing or winning. He's just going to do enough of a job to be okay, and then you just need the other players around it to do the real stepping up. But he's not going to be a problem, I think. But obviously, I like him a lot, so maybe other people have different opinions on that. Pice, who do you reckon? Who do you start next to him? Do you think Kova? Would you throw Kova in? I mean, it didn't seem to be a big injury, but he was still out for a little while now.
Yeah. No, I'd probably start Ruben and bring Kova on, I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's probably the most reasonable thing to do in terms of fitness.
I think it's the most realistic thing that will happen as well. But I just something in my mind again, like Chilwell. Like I'm not sure if he starts, but like I just got a feeling like Graham Potter might just like, right, it's the Champions League, like go for it type thing, like put him in. But he's also
then we can't complain about more injuries if we throw our players too early all the time.
Yeah, no, I think realistically it'll probably be those two again.
Okay, yeah. There you go. Bertram, would you go with Ruben just to be safe with Kovacic, or would you throw Kova in?
I think I probably would throw Kova in if he's all right, like Chilwell as well. As long as he can hack it, if they're reasonably confident that he can play like 60, 50 minutes, 70 minutes, maybe even, I would. I think Ruben was pretty decent against West Ham. I could be, slightly concerned that the reason we did play him was just for the height, even though I thought he was decent. I was thinking, I'm struggling to see what kind of game we're going to get tomorrow, because as you touched upon earlier, we could get a game where they're very proactive. They sit back deep when they played Leverkusen a couple of weeks ago, or where they tried to dominate us. Would it be the worst idea if we have like a back and forth game to have someone like Gallagher in there if we don't have the ball as much?
I think we won't have the ball as much. I think we're going to. We have the second highest average ball possession in the Premier League. After
I see, but I could see them like they've done, against Freiburg when they were at home. Really come and attack us. The 81,000 fans trying to go at us. I think there is a chance that they will try and take us out that way. And I think if we have a back and forth game with a lot of duels, a lot of physicality, I think Gallagher would be decent. But
I think Gallagher gets sent off with the ref we've got tomorrow after what I was reading.
Well, careful with Joao Felix, maybe we can't start him.
Bro, Like the guy that we have tomorrow, apparently, like he gives a ridiculous amount of yellow cards. So I don't want Gallagher flying into tackles.
Who is it?
Some Spanish ref. TFC Daily tweeted it. So
Yeah. There you go. It's a tough one. I do find the lack of trust and the dislike for Ruben Loftus-Cheek is a bit strange by my chat. How do you even become people that subscribe to me and watch me if you dislike Ruben? I don't understand that's possible. But sure. Yeah, it's a difficult one. I do understand just go for cover. It's like, I mean, my thumbnail says the season rests on this. Obviously, the whole...
I don't know what you guys think. I actually feel like we need Zakaria more tomorrow. But I think Zakaria...
I just think he's so unlikely to play. That's why I'm not, like, do you know what I mean? He's been out for, 2 weeks longer than cover even, right?
Yeah, but they returned to training at the same time. So, actually, Zakaria was there before, so...
But I thought Zakaria was in individual training. We just saw pictures of it on the grass. But I could be wrong on that.
Well, I think he's been in team training, but
okay,
I don't know.
Yeah,
it's really hard. I mean,
in an ideal world, I agree. I would pick Zakaria probably even over cover if they're both fit next to Enzo, just for a balance in midfield type thing in a game like this. I'll pick Ruben, but if cover is genuinely fit enough, I'd pick cover. If Zakaria is genuinely fit enough, I'd pick Zakaria. But I don't think any of them are genuinely fit enough. So therefore, I'm going to say Ruben. But hey, if they are and they start, amazing. So I'm not going to complain about it. But yeah, okay, let's move on. It gets a bit easier now in a few positions, but pretty much in all positions, really. I think we can all agree Joao Felix needs to start as the number 10 again, don't we, guys?
Yeah, the first three, player 8 and 11, are very simple with Felix. I think it's just a little debate about who's going to start on the right-hand side.
Very true. Very, very true. Basham, Joao Felix as a 10. I mean, obviously, you could make a small case. Do you start him up top? But he's been so good as a 10. Why would you take him out of that position now, right?
Not much the same. Also, like Pai says, it won't take the biggest psychic in the world to predict who I'd pick as our player number 8 and 11 as well.
No, exactly. Let's just get those out of the way quickly as well. Then Mudryk, whether it's Cucurella or Joe, I just hope whoever the left back is gives him the flip and ball a few more times. That'd be quite good. But yeah, I'm pretty sure we're all in agreement of Mykhailo Mudryk. And then up top, Kai Havertz, because Aubameyang isn't in the squad. Fofana, David Dutcher Fofana, has been registered, so he can't play. So then if Joao Felix plays as a 10, you don't really have another option but Kai Havertz anyway. This is like, as much as I found it quite funny that we picked Aubameyang to leave out of the squad, because we didn't register and couldn't register Fofana.
I didn't even realize.
I find it a weird choice to pick the second striker to leave out. Like, I know with injuries we slightly struggled, but you have so many midfielders. Like, it would have been so much easier to leave one of them out. Like a Gallagher, a Ruben, one of them. So, I mean, now Ruben is on screen because Kova isn't fully fit yet, or just leave like. I don't know. Do we expect Kante to be fit much? You could have just left out Kante because he's injured anyway. Do you know what I mean? Obviously, we were never going to do that. I'm joking. But yeah, you don't have another choice, bar Kai Havertz, do you, Bertram? Because who else can you play now if Felix plays at 10?
Yeah, throw Mendy up and just cross it into him. I think Havertz should be the one. Coming back to Germany, you'd hope that he could rediscover some of his Leverkusen form as well. But not really anything to do. The funny thing with Alba is he has risen a bit. He has earned a little bit more respect in my head through his decision to stay and fight. Almost sad he isn't able to get the chance, but no reason to go more deeper. I think Havertz is our 9 for tomorrow.
Fair enough. I mean, I was going to say you could have also left out someone like Hakim Ziyech, but actually, because Raheem Sterling is turning into Kovacic and Kante and can't ever be fit, we're kind of screwed, and the only real right winger that we have, even though, as people always know, I keep saying this, Ziyech to me isn't a real right winger. I know he plays there, and that's his position, but he doesn't act like a real right winger does to me. But Madueke isn't registered. Sterling is injured. So you have two options. Either you play Mount on the wing, or you play Hakim Ziyech, right, Pice? And who would you pick then?
I'm going to go with Mount because I think he has more of a relationship with Reece James down that side. And I know Ziyech presses well, but I think Mount's got a point to prove. And especially after being dropped last game, I feel like I want to see his reaction. So I'm going to go with Mount.
Would you want to see his reaction on the wing, though?
Well, I mean, no, but I think I'd rather see him there than Ziyech. And I think from that side, still, you can he can still whip balls in. I mean, he played obviously not in this position for Tuchel, but he's not like alien to him. So, and also like him and Felix could also, change. It can be flexible, I think. So, yeah, there's
Absolutely. I mean,
different.
it could be as much as a cover sometimes drifts to the wide, and then this happens, in game.
Yeah, like we
That
can be flexible with this. So,
very much so conceivable. See, I would pick Ziyech comfortably and I know they haven't played much together, so this is still a possibility. We just haven't seen it yet. I'm sure we all remember when we signed Hakim Ziyech, the one clip we all saw was when he switched that wonder ball for Ajax from one side to the other, and there was the wonderful camera shot from behind it. If Ziyech played those types of passes to in-behind runs from Mudryk, I would pick Ziyech any day of the week. The problem is, Ziyech never plays that pass. All Ziyech does is cross it into the 6-yard box right by the far post. He plays the same cross every time. And no one's ever gotten to it. So I'm like, well, if you're only going to play that cross and no one ever gets to it, then you have two options. Either you don't play or you stop playing that cross. Do you know what I mean? I don't know, man. I think I'm going to... You know what, Bacham? I might force you to go first. Would you go with Mount as well, or would you go Ziyech?
Yeah, it seems like I'm not going to be that popular in the chat. I would go Mount as well. But the reason I will go with him is purely based on the fact that I watched a 1-minute highlight reel of him today of the game we played against Milan, where I thought he was quite good. I don't know. I think I do like Ziyech. I think he's good to come on. I wouldn't be mad if he started. I just think, I don't know. I feel something with Mount. I understand that he's been absolutely dreadful lately, but I think especially the performance he did play against Milan, even though I don't know how admissible that is, to be honest. But I feel like he would be good tomorrow as well. I would give him the freedom to do it. And I think when we play him on the right, or typically when he has that role of filling out like one of the wings, like he did in this game, he's better than when he played, was it against Fulham, where he kept taking Mudryk's space. So I think if we park him on one side, he'll be better. So personally, I'd go Mount. It can't really explain why, but it's what I'd do.
It's a difficult one. I see a point in case you made for both. I almost want to pick Ziyech because I'm like, if we're not going to play Ziyech when Sterling is injured and Madueke isn't registered, then it's even more stupid that we picked Aubameyang to be left out of the squad and not Ziyech. You know what I mean? So that's why I'm going to say, obviously, you two pick Mount, so that's what we're going to leave on screen regardless. But and as much as that's not really a reason in terms of ability for either, because, Ziyech has had his good games, but not really managed to be super effective. Sure, that's partly down to other players as well. And Mount has had, obviously, his other issues. Yeah, I would probably just about pick Ziyech, but like I say, I understand. Hey, what? This is the question. Will I be able to give up the 19th man? That's kind of funny. Yeah, well, this is the team we went for. We'll see what Graham Potter will actually pick tomorrow. Stop playing players out of position. I guess that's fair. We complained about it God knows how many times. So I guess that is a fair point. But hey, the boys picked what they picked. We'll see what Potter picks. And if Potter picks Mount, we'll see how it goes, I suppose. One last thing before we round this one out. Score predictions, boys. Bacham, we'll go with you first. What do you reckon?
I think it will end in a 1-1 draw again, if I'm honest. I hope not, but I think it will. I think we will be better tomorrow than we were against West Ham, if I'm honest. So I'd go 1-1.
Okay. Pies, what are you going to pick?
3-1 Chelsea.
3-1 Chelsea.
I think we're going to be able to exploit their back line too much. And if they play a high line, it's over for them. It's over. Yeah. So if they, especially how confident...
Unless no one passes to Mudryk again.
Yeah, no, but how confident their manager's been, I think, come and attack us. Because we've got the pace on the counter. So as long as we're up for it, I think we can score a few.
Okay. I'm going to say... I would like to say 2-0, but I feel like without Badiashile, I don't really back us to keep a clean sheet, if I'm honest. So I guess I'm going to say 2-1 then, even though I kind of feel like we might be more... Yeah, no, because even though we probably will play better than a 1-goal difference than them, it will probably end up being a 1-goal difference. And hey, if we win, we win, and that's all I will care about. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to round this one out. Obviously, Bayern Munich against PSG soon. I'm sure most of you are going to watch that. So let's see how that one's going to go. Potentially opponents for the quarterfinals, of course. But of course, we obviously have to beat Dortmund first. But yeah, if you're still here, I appreciate you very much. Subscribe again if you haven't already. That'd be massively appreciated. On the road to 20,000 subscribers, hit the like button on your way out as well. And please do check out Pice's website, chelseafc365.com, as well as his Twitter. Big shout out to Bertram again for creating the quiz, as he always does. And today, even being here to be quizmaster. But yeah, ladies and gentlemen, thank you guys for watching. Up to Chelsea, upwards and onwards. And we'll see you next time.